Happy Friday.
Cheers. Happy Friday, guys.
Cheers to the weekend.
Cheers to the weekend. Let us know what you're doing this weekend. Leave a comment below. We'd love to learn more about you, who's watching, and all that
And
good
what
stuff.
flavor AHA sparkling water you're drinking.
So today we are talking about a really popular blog post on resilience to reform. Noah wrote this a while ago, and it is called Operation Noah's Ark. This is what what he got indicted for, and we're just going to dive into this blog post, talk about it because we haven't done a video talking about it, and really about how, like, Noah was a college graduate, he was a high school graduate, we came from the same family, and he ended up in prison. So kind of talking through how that even happened.
Yeah, because me and Morgan, we don't just look alike, we act alike. We have very similar personalities, abilities. We've had the same opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely.
We both had our college paid for, and family members that would be more than willing to help us to get on the right foot and give us references. And for some reason, I chose this path. When I could have,
I chose this path.
When I could have just went with her. I could have just hung on to her coattails.
I was dragging.
I'm 34. It's never too late to jump on Morgan's coattails.
I was forcing him to go to Bible camps with me.
Yeah, I hated Bible camp.
And he did. He came with me.
I came. It didn't work. So Bible camp doesn't work.
For you. But yeah, so basically how this kind of led to this path. And really the biggest thing when Noah and I ever talk about this, it just comes down to, I mean, we all have things happen in life. Noah and I had a lot of similar things happen in life, and then he also had a ton of other things happen to him that didn't necessarily happen to me, like friends, dying, getting car accidents. We both dealt with the death of our dad.
We really hung out with different crowds too. I was really in that party scene, and even though you guys socialized and partied here and there, like me and my group of friends, like I guess we were all dealing with similar stuff, and then these deaths started happening amongst us, and they were in our best friends, and we all just clung to each other, but we also all clung to drugs and alcohol.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's the way we coped. You coped by leaning on your friends and
going to church
and
camp.
maybe going to church and talking to a pastor or something.
Yeah.
Jesse turned to golf and his 3 buddies and
and school.
Yeah. So apparently stay in school and golf a lot because that's what works.
Right. But yeah, so we just kind of talk through, and we have many blog posts on resilience to reform. We'll link to these as well. But just coping is the biggest thing. And Noah's working on a post right now. Will he talk more about this as well? But just how you cope, even coping. Some people don't even cope. They keep it inside.
And that's what I did. I just buried it and shoved it down, poured a bunch of alcohol on top, threw a bunch of drugs on top, and just ignored it.
Years later, he's still now working through these things where even for me sometimes, hearing him talk about the different things, the different insecurities, the past, and I'm just like, get over it.
Get over it. It's not that easy.
Yeah, it's not that big of a
deal. When you buried stuff for decades upon decades.
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff started when I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
And now I'm 34, and I didn't start dealing with it till like a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
while in prison. So.
Yeah. So it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of reflection, a lot of self-discovery.
Yeah.
And I'm getting through it. But
so let's rewind a little bit, just kind of the storyline even within the blog post. So you graduated from high school, he's off to college.
The University of Minnesota.
Yeah, and then so when did it start kind of like...
So I mean, the drug use really started compounding it through college.
Okay.
So it just continued through college, and it was just this drug, then that drug. So I was just drinking and smoking weed when I went to college.
This is using, not selling.
Yeah, this is just using. I was drinking and smoking weed, and next thing you know, I was trying cocaine, and then I was trying ecstasy and acid and mushrooms, and eventually I was trying heroin and methamphetamines, and
you talk a lot about like being the life of the party. You didn't want the party to just embrace
that.
You embrace people telling him like, you're the life of the party, you're the one who keeps it rolling, you're fun. And then, like Noah's written in blog posts,
and then by 24,
he went from fun to pathetic.
Yeah. By 24, I was 24, 25, I was smoking crack to go up, and I was using heroin to go down, and I was addicted, and I was a mess. and that just went into 26, and then I was indicted by 27.
Yeah.
And when I actually started selling drugs, this is in the blog post, 4 months after I graduated from college.
Yeah.
Is when I made that jump, and it was just so natural because you're around something for so long. Other things in that area, in that realm, don't seem so crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I would have never thought of selling drugs until I used drugs for so long. Then I'm like, everyone around me sells drugs.
Well,
so who gives a crap if I sell them too?
Yeah, you wrote in a blog post once that I was like, oh my gosh, I can totally see how you think what you're doing isn't wrong, especially when you're in that environment all the time. But you would say, you would just be going to these college parties. You're not in college anymore, but you're newly out of it. And you're just giving these college kids drugs to use. So what are you doing wrong? And I remember just thinking, oh my gosh, I can totally understand how that would all of a sudden not feel like, you know, you're this drug dealer, because you're not this big drug dealer. You're just, everyone's already using drugs, so you're just doing what they'd already be getting from someone else. And so I was like, that is so interesting. But then just like how everything else was a slow fade, it's like that became a little bit scarier as time went on, and it wasn't just the, or maybe just the college.
Yeah, it's just,
it
was my answer for the party to not be over.
Yeah.
I was still going to the college parties because I was supplying the drugs for them.
Right.
And I was just doing them in different college towns. And next thing you know, I fell in love with the lifestyle, absolutely.
Right.
I fell in love with the attention because right back to the problem in the first place, I had these insecurities. Now, not only do I have this drug to make me feel good, now I have this attention from who I am. People want to be around me because I'm the dope man.
So how did you find out that you, like, this was a real thing? Like, at what point when you were selling drugs were you like, oh my gosh, I need... Because I remember at one point, too, you moved back home and you were like, finally, I think it hit you and you got your kind of head on straight.
Well, I moved to Grand Forks, so I had an idea before November of 2011, I left Minneapolis and I moved up to Grand Forks to live with Dakota and her dad in Melrose, because Melrose was nine months old, and I had a sliver of hope that I wasn't going to go to prison. If I get my act clean, if I stop dealing drugs, if they don't catch me with any drugs, because at that point they still hadn't caught me with any drugs, and they never did, but I didn't know about conspiracy, I didn't know about ghost dope.
I didn't know about any of this either.
So these are all things that the government doesn't need to physically bust you driving down the interstate with a bunch of drugs in the vehicle. They don't need to have somebody wear a wire doing a controlled buy on you. They just have to have 2 to 40 people say that you're who you are. And I was who I was, absolutely.
I was like,
but I was just unaware that I could get caught without getting caught.
Yeah.
So I got out at the end because people were telling me to get out, and I was homeless, and my life was a frickin' mess. And I thought, maybe if I clean up my acts, I won't go to prison, but I was wrong. And about a couple months after, about 3-4 months after I cleaned up, they came one more time trying to get me to cooperate, and they basically said then, it's not a question of if we're going to indict you, and it's a question of when we're going to indict you. So at that point, I knew, okay, I'm going to prison. Am I going to prison for 10 years? Am I going to prison for 20 years? I knew I wasn't going for life, but 20 years feels like life. Yeah. That's for sure. So
even 10 years, I felt like
so
life.
When I got 10 years, I was excited. I was happy. I was relieved. And I never thought I would be relieved to get 10 years in prison. So that's where my mindset had got. That's how prepared I was for prison. Like when I was on pretrial, people are like, how are you not freaking the hell out? And I'm like, because I've been mentally prepared for this for 18 months. Yeah. And then I was on pretrial for 16 months. So I had almost 3 years where I knew I was going to prison. So it's like, after 3 years, you're like, all right, let's get this shit over with.
And we get a lot of questions from our readers too, just about like if they have a loved one going through a similar situation, like what can I say or what can I do? And it's something I keep asking Noah, because I feel like he's always going to come up with a magical answer, but he keeps just saying like there really is nothing you can do until they're ready.
Yeah, in my case, you never know until you try. Yeah, that's for sure.
Right, that's true. But one of the things I was going to say is, so throughout this process of Noah going down this slow fade, downward spiral. We didn't realize it until it was too late, because what I always thought was, you know, I was in college too. I'm only a year ahead of Noah, so it's like I was partying and having a good time too. So it's like when I was around him, I was like, oh, it's fun, like it's the weekend and we're going out, you know. So I never once thought it was an issue until all of a sudden it was an issue, and he
was getting indicted.
Yeah, we started getting phone calls, just saying, you know, your brother's in trouble. Like he's gonna be in prison. Some people are following him. The feds are following him. He's gonna get caught. And I just remember me and my mom and brother just being like, "What? Like, is this true?" And we'd call Noah, you know, and he would answer the phone.
I was still playing it off, and
and he'd answer the phone.
That's crazy talk.
Yeah, that's crazy. And we're just like, how can someone that's on drugs or that's selling drugs still be showing up on the holidays and still, like, when he's around us, you know, kind of be fine? And so we're kind of like, what? Then we started noticing things like, you know, he'd always be twitching or always end up sleeping through Thanksgiving. I remember one year and I was just like, okay, this isn't
and
this
then
isn't
I missed
just
Thanksgiving
being hungover.
Another year it started to get a little more unpredictable.
So with Resilience to Reform, one of the biggest things that we've been learning is, like, this happens, it's so common, it happens to so many people, but they just don't share their stories or perspectives, because just like how I felt, you know, we were raised in a good family, everything, you know, was great, and you don't want to share these negative things, and it's so new to you too. I wasn't even quite sure how to process it myself, but just being open and coming out and sharing it has just led to so much light within other people's lives that are going through similar things. And that's really why we started Resilience to Reform, was all because of Operation Noah's Ark and where it led us through this journey, and him being incarcerated. And
it's brought us closer. It's allowed us to heal as a family. It's allowed us to, you know, deal with our dad's death. It's allowed us to just...
a lot of other insecurities too that you were facing that you probably wouldn't have worked through or even acknowledged that those were things until you started treatment. So...
all right, guys. Well, it's been another good week. I hope you got something out of this.
Enjoyed the blog post. Go check it out and read it. We look forward to Noah's continued one about the different coping. Let us know any comments, perspectives, anything that you've been through that's similar. Have any questions? Leave a comment, and we'll be sure to get back to you.
If you want to share your story, that's what Resilience Reform is for. It's a platform. You know, my story is unique in the aspect that I went to college and I still went down this life of crime avenue where I really didn't have to, and it's disappointing, but at the same time we got through it. We're on the other side now, and I'm thankful to have a supportive family that not only stuck by my side when I got in trouble, but through the prison sentence, and now that I'm out and they're giving me another chance, and I hope to not disappoint them a second time.
Absolutely. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend.